Did you know that millions of UK families are on the brink of collapse, and no one's talking about it? From rising food prices to mental health breakdowns, the very foundation of family life is crumbling in silence. This isn't just about numbers, it's about real people facing impossible choices every day. In this video, we uncover 10 shocking reasons why families are struggling more than ever, and 7 might be happening in your home right now, without you even realizing it. Stick with us, because what you're about to hear could change how you see the UK forever. Number 10. Social isolation and breakdown of community. In today's fast-paced, high-pressure UK society, many families are not just financially strained, they're also becoming socially isolated. The traditional support systems of extended family, neighbours, and tight-knit communities are fading away, leaving households to face challenges entirely on their own. According to the Campaign to End Loneliness, over 25% of UK adults report feeling chronically lonely, a statistic that includes parents, caregivers, and even children. In the past, you might have borrowed sugar from a neighbour or had grandparents living close by. Today, more families are living in silos, disconnected from the people around them. This isolation adds a quiet but powerful pressure to family life. Without a nearby support network, even small setbacks, like a sick child, job loss, or mental health dip, can feel overwhelming. There's no one to lean on, no helping hand during emergencies, and no time to build relationships outside the household. Parents report feeling like they must be everything at once: provider, therapist, teacher, and caregiver, with no one to share the load. Children, too, are growing up in a world with fewer chances for spontaneous play, mentorship, or multi-generational influence. It's not just loneliness, it's the loss of community resilience that once buffered families from crisis. The effects ripple through every aspect of life. Isolation contributes to mental health issues, higher stress levels, and even worse physical health outcomes. When families are disconnected from their communities, they're more vulnerable to poverty, depression, and hopelessness. But the issue isn't just personal, it's cultural. A society thrives when its people are connected, when parents can trade babysitting, when elders pass down wisdom, and when families know they're not alone. Rebuilding this connection requires investment in community spaces, social programs, and time to connect without fear or financial burden. Without it, families will continue to suffer quietly, surrounded by others, yet feeling completely alone. The breakdown of community isn't just sad, it's dangerous, because when no one's looking out for each other, we all fall faster. Number 9. Rising debt and credit dependency. As wages stagnate and costs soar, more UK families are being forced into debt just to survive. Credit cards, payday loans, and buy now pay later schemes are no longer tools for emergencies. They've become lifelines for daily expenses. According to the Bank of England, household debt has surged to its highest level since the 2008 financial crisis, with many families relying on borrowed money for essentials like groceries, utilities, and school supplies. What used to be occasional borrowing is now part of the monthly routine for millions, trapping families in a dangerous cycle of interest, stress, and repayment. This kind of financial dependency can feel like sinking in quicksand. The more you borrow to stay afloat, the deeper you fall. Small debts grow into large ones, and missed payments lead to penalties, damaged credit scores, and mental health strain. Families with children are particularly vulnerable. Unexpected costs, like school trips, birthdays, or medical bills, can push them over the edge. Even modest earners are finding themselves juggling multiple credit cards, overdrafts, and short-term loans, often just to keep the lights on or the fridge full. And with interest rates on the rise, repaying that debt becomes even harder every month. Beyond the numbers, debt leaves a heavy emotional footprint. Parents report feeling ashamed, anxious, and helpless, working harder than ever, yet falling further behind. This emotional toll spills into family life, increasing tension at home and reducing quality time with children. For some, it leads to relationship breakdowns or even homelessness. What's most alarming is that this kind of financial strain is becoming normalized. The message to families is clear: if you can't afford to live, borrow until you break. But real solutions don't come from more credit. They come from systemic change, financial education, and policies that ensure families earn enough to live with dignity. Rising debt is not a sign of poor choices, it's a sign of a broken system that's failing its people. Number 8. Childcare costs. Childcare in the UK has become one of the most crippling expenses for families, rivaling mortgage payments and rent. For parents trying to balance work and raising children, the cost of full-time care can be devastating. According to Quorum Family and Childcare's 2024 report, the average cost of a full-time nursery place for a child under 2 is now over £14,800 per year. For many households, especially those with more than one child, these figures are unsustainable. Childcare is no longer just a personal concern, it's an economic barrier that keeps families from progressing. The impact is especially hard on working mothers, many of whom are forced to leave their jobs or reduce their hours because childcare simply isn't worth the cost. This not only affects household income, but also long-term career growth, pension contributions, and financial independence. Families are often forced to make painful choices, stay home, and struggle on one income, or work just to break even. The result is a generation of parents, mostly women, being priced out of the workforce, while employers lose valuable talent. Even government childcare support schemes, while helpful, often come with strict limitations and limited availability. Beyond the financial cost, there's an emotional toll. Parents who want to work feel guilt and frustration, while those who stay home out of necessity often feel trapped and undervalued. Many families rely on informal arrangements, grandparents, neighbors, or juggling shifts. But this comes with its own challenges and inconsistencies. Children thrive on stability, yet the current system offers anything but. High-quality, accessible childcare should be a basic support for families, not a luxury for the few. Without real reform, the system continues to punish parents for working and places enormous strain on home life. The rising cost of childcare is not just a bill to pay, it's a barrier to equality, freedom, and stability for families across the UK. Number 7. Erosion of the family unit. The modern pressures on UK families are doing more than just creating stress. They're contributing to the slow breakdown of the family unit. Economic hardship, overwork, and emotional strain are causing cracks in relationships that once held strong. According to the Office for National Statistics, the UK has seen a significant rise in divorce rates and a growing number of single-parent households. These aren't just statistics. They represent real people, many of whom are battling conflict, disconnection, and burnout within their own homes. When financial and emotional pressure mounts, family stability often becomes the first casualty. The traditional model of two parents, steady income, and shared responsibility is becoming harder to maintain. Couples are working longer hours, often on conflicting shifts, leaving less time for communication, affection, and shared parenting. Extended families once relied upon for childcare or emotional support are now often separated by distance or strained by their own financial issues. Without that network, daily responsibilities become overwhelming. Stress becomes resentment, silence replaces connection, and families begin to drift apart. Children growing up in fractured homes are more likely to experience emotional instability, difficulty in school, and relationship challenges later in life. At its core, the erosion of the family unit is about more than relationships. It's about the loss of emotional safety and identity. A strong family offers support, belonging, and a place to grow. When those bonds are weakened or broken, individuals can feel isolated and unsupported, even in their own homes. It's not always dramatic. Sometimes it's the quiet decay of togetherness over time, and without intervention, the effects can echo through generations. A society is only as strong as its families, and when families are stretched too thin to hold each other up, the whole system starts to collapse. Rebuilding the family unit starts with recognizing these pressures and creating space, financially, emotionally, and socially, for families to heal, reconnect, and function as the strong foundation they were meant to be. Number 6. Food insecurity. In one of the wealthiest nations in the world, millions of families in the UK are struggling to put food on the table. What was once considered rare or temporary, needing help to eat, is now becoming a regular part of life for many. According to the Trussell Trust, a record-breaking 3.1 million emergency food parcels were distributed in just 12 months, many of them to households with children. Rising food prices, wage stagnation, and benefit delays have created a perfect storm. pushing families into food insecurity at alarming rates. Grocery budgets are shrinking, and basic items like bread, milk, eggs, and fresh produce are becoming unaffordable luxuries. The effects go far beyond empty stomachs. Parents are making heartbreaking decisions, skipping meals so their children can eat, relying on discounted, nutrient-poor foods, or stretching meals in unsafe ways. These coping strategies can have serious health consequences, especially for growing children who need consistent, balanced nutrition. Teachers are reporting increased cases of hunger-related fatigue, poor concentration, and behavioral issues in schools. Hunger isn't just a health issue, it's an education issue, a mental health issue, and a future opportunity issue. Malnutrition today can lead to chronic health problems, developmental delays, and long-term societal costs. What makes food insecurity even more painful is the shame and silence surrounding it. Many families avoid seeking help due to stigma, even when their cupboards are nearly empty. Others turn to food banks quietly, doing everything they can to protect their children from the reality of their situation. The emotional toll is heavy. Guilt, stress, and a sense of failure weigh on parents who are doing their best in an impossible system. The truth is, no one should have to choose between paying the electric bill and buying groceries. Food is a basic human right, not a privilege. When families can't meet this most fundamental need, it's not just a personal crisis, it's a national moral failure. Hunger should never be normal in a country with so much. Number 5. Decline in public services. Across the UK, families are feeling the deep effects of a sharp decline in public services. Institutions that once acted as the backbone of community life, like schools, GP surgeries, social care, and youth centres, are now overstretched, underfunded, or disappearing altogether. Years of austerity measures have left public systems unable to meet growing demand, forcing families to either wait endlessly for help or go without it entirely. According to the Institute for Government, real-term spending on many public services has fallen dramatically, leading to reduced availability and lower quality of care. For families, that means longer queues, less support, and more stress. The impact is widespread and deeply personal. Parents are facing months-long waits for basic healthcare appointments or mental health support for their children. Schools are dealing with staff shortages, overcrowded classrooms, and shrinking budgets for essential resources. Services for vulnerable children, such as special educational needs support, are being cut or delayed, leaving parents to navigate complex challenges alone. In many areas, youth centres have shut down completely, stripping young people of safe spaces to connect, learn, and grow. The result? Families are forced to become their own social workers, nurses, and teachers, roles they are neither trained for nor equipped to handle. What makes this crisis even more painful is that these services were designed to be lifelines, especially for struggling families. When they weaken or disappear, it's not just an inconvenience, it's a breaking point. Families who rely on council housing support, disability services, or local clinics are left behind, often with nowhere to turn. And even those not in crisis yet feel the tension rising, knowing that help is harder to find if things go wrong. The decline in public services doesn't just affect isolated individuals, it erodes trust, widens inequality, and leaves families fighting battles that should be shared by a stronger system. A society is only as strong as the support it gives its people, and right now, that support is falling apart when it's needed most. Number 4. Mental health crisis. The UK is experiencing a mental health crisis that's hitting families harder than ever before. Rising stress levels, financial pressures, and social isolation are contributing to a wave of emotional exhaustion across households. Parents, children, and even grandparents are feeling the effects. According to NHS England, mental health referrals have reached record highs, especially among parents juggling multiple responsibilities and teens coping with uncertainty about the future. What was once considered a private struggle has now become a national emergency, quietly unraveling families from within. The daily grind of surviving, working long hours, covering rising bills, and managing childcare leaves little time or space for emotional well-being. Parents are silently battling anxiety, depression, and burnout, often without access to timely or affordable care. Public mental health services are overwhelmed, with waiting times for therapy stretching into months. This delay leaves many to suffer in silence or turn to over-the-counter solutions that mask symptoms but don't solve the problem. Children are also deeply affected, absorbing the emotional weight of their parents and experiencing their own struggles in schools that lack adequate support system. The damage isn't always visible, but it's everywhere. Family arguments become more frequent, communication breaks down, and the household atmosphere turns tense and unstable. When mental health deteriorates, so does the ability to parent effectively, nurture relationships, and maintain routine. What should be a supportive environment turns into a source of more stress. Emotional safety, once considered a basic element of home life, becomes a luxury, and with so much stigma still surrounding mental health, many families suffer alone, too afraid or too overwhelmed to ask for help. The reality is clear. A family cannot thrive if its members are mentally broken. Without proper care, support, and awareness, this silent crisis will continue to spread, impacting not just individual households, but the fabric of society itself. The mental health of a family isn't a side issue, it's the foundation of everything else. Number 3. Housing crisis. The UK is facing a severe housing crisis that's impacting families at every level of society. Whether renting or trying to buy, the cost of having a roof over your head has become shockingly unaffordable. Home ownership, once a cornerstone of the British dream, is now out of reach for many. According to Shelter UK, over 1 million households are currently at risk of homelessness, with rising rents and unaffordable mortgages pushing families to the edge. Even families with stable incomes are struggling to find decent, affordable housing, especially in major cities, where prices have skyrocketed. The crisis isn't just about price, it's about space, safety, and dignity. Families are being forced into overcrowded and sometimes uninhabitable living conditions. It's not uncommon for 3 or 4 children to share a single room, or for parents to sleep on sofas, so their kids can have the only bed. Many renters live with the constant fear of eviction, with no long-term security or legal protection. For those trying to buy, interest rate hikes have made monthly mortgage payments completely out of reach. Housing, instead of being a place of comfort, has become a source of stress, instability, and anxiety, and the emotional toll is devastating. Children raised in unstable housing environments often face developmental challenges, mental health struggles, and disrupted education. Parents are stretched thin, working longer hours to cover rent, while trying to hold the family together. The lack of safe and affordable housing isn't just an inconvenience, it's a deep societal failure that affects everything, from healthcare to school performance, to community well-being. Families can't thrive when their home is under constant threat. A stable home is more than just 4 walls. It's the foundation of emotional security, routine, and future planning. Without it, everything else begins to unravel. The housing crisis is not just about property, it's about people being pushed to their limits, with no clear way out. Number 2. Stagnant wages. While the cost of living has surged, wages in the UK have barely moved. For millions of working families, this creates a widening gap between what they earn and what they need to survive. Despite rising prices for housing, food, and utilities, the average wage has remained nearly flat when adjusted for inflation. According to research by the Resolution Foundation, real wages in the UK have been stagnant since 2008, meaning families today are often earning the same or less in real terms than they were over a decade ago. The result? More people are working harder but feeling poorer every year. Families are finding themselves trapped in a cycle of work and debt. 2 full-time incomes, once enough for a modest but stable life, are no longer a guarantee of comfort. Many households now rely on overtime, second jobs, or gig work just to keep up with basic expenses. Parents are sacrificing weekends and evenings, not to save for the future, but to pay this month's bills. Even professions once considered secure, such as teaching, nursing, and public service, are no longer providing the financial stability they once promised. As income fails to rise, so does the frustration, burnout, and sense of hopelessness. The psychological impact of stagnant wages can be just as harmful as the financial strain. Families are forced to delay milestones, like buying a home, having children, or saving for retirement. Children are growing up watching their parents work constantly, yet never feel secure. This environment breeds stress, resentment, and a loss of purpose. It's not about greed or luxury, it's about the failure of the system to reward honest work. When people give their time, energy, and loyalty but receive little in return, it breaks the unspoken promise of progress. Stagnant wages aren't just numbers on a chart, they represent the slow erosion of dignity, opportunity, and hope in everyday life. Number 1. Skyrocketing cost of living. The cost of living in the UK has exploded in recent years, putting enormous pressure on families from all walks of life. Everyday essentials like groceries, energy bills, and transportation have become significantly more expensive. Families who once managed to save a little each month are now struggling just to get by. According to the Office for National Statistics, inflation reached levels not seen in over 4 decades, with household staples seeing the steepest increases. Items like bread, milk, and heating fuel, things once taken for granted, have become sources of anxiety. Many families have been forced to cut back, turning off the heating during winter, skipping meals, or relying on community support just to make ends meet. The pressure is even more intense for low and middle income households, who often spend a greater share of their income on basic needs. Rent or mortgage payments have climbed sharply, leaving very little room for anything else. For single-income households or families with young children, the situation is even more dire. Some have turned to food banks, while others are taking on multiple jobs, sacrificing their time, health, and relationships to keep their families afloat. According to the Joseph Rowntree Foundation, over 1 in 5 families are now living in relative poverty, despite being employed. The cost of simply surviving has outpaced what many can realistically earn. This situation is not just a financial problem, it's a mental and emotional burden that wears families down over time. Parents are facing impossible choices: pay the gas bill, or buy new school shoes, work overtime, or spend time with their children. These decisions are more than difficult, they're devastating. The fear of falling behind is constant, and for many, the dream of stability feels more distant than ever. When survival becomes the focus, joy, growth, and connection often disappear. The rising cost of living isn't just affecting bank accounts, it's redefining what it means to live as a family in the UK today. The warning signs are everywhere. UK families are under more pressure than ever before, and it's not just one issue causing the strain. It's the combination of skyrocketing living costs, stagnant wages, unaffordable childcare, broken public services, and emotional burnout that's pushing families to the edge. These are not isolated problems, they're deeply connected, creating a system that's become unsustainable for the average household. Every parent skipping a meal, every child struggling in silence, every couple breaking under stress. These are the real-life consequences of policies, systems, and economic shifts that are failing to protect the family unit. And while the situation might feel overwhelming, awareness is the first step toward change. By shining a light on these hidden struggles, we can begin to build pressure for action, real solutions that prioritize families, stability, and community. You're not alone if you're feeling the weight of any of these 10 issues, and if you're not, someone you know probably is. Whether it's a friend, a neighbor, or a co-worker, they might be fighting a battle you can't see. That's why it's more important than ever to speak up, stay informed, and stay connected. Families are the heart of any strong nation, and when families break down, everything else begins to fall apart. If we want to see a better future, it starts with understanding what's broken and refusing to ignore it any longer. Devaha. Which of these struggles hit closest to home? Tell us your story in the comments. We read every one. Don't miss our previous video on the hidden truths of modern poverty. It connects deeply with today's topic. We pour our hearts into making these videos to bring awareness and real value. Your support means everything. So please, subscribe to the channel. It's just one click, but it helps us keep going.